Hello, my dear Leo, and welcome to your February reading. So, Mercury retrograde started last month, guys, as you know. So, it's going to last until February 20th, and I really hope it's not going to be as bad for you as it was for me. I already did these readings, and all of them went pfft. It just, the computer forced me into update, and it was gone. So, guys, welcome. If you are first time here, welcome back. If you are here from before, if you get any messages, guys, these are messages that are meant for you. You can't expect everything to be just for you because, again, it's a shared forum and it's a general reading. But in order to get more messages, I would advise to check all of these three: sun sign, moon sign, and your ascendant. If you don't know what they are, in the description I provide a link so you can kind of determine that. Also, if you really want a reading customized for you, check my website and see kind of like which one is the best fit, or my email is in the description as well, and you can kind of get it there. Oh, look at that, Leo, you're getting two things. You're getting cave and clouds, sanctuary to shape shifting. So because all these readings just got vanished, I decided to kind of approach it differently. Maybe that was the message, kind of like do things differently. But I kind of like really like my Celtic cross, so I'm still going to do the Celtic cross. But before I do it, I'm simply going to go with the general kind of like I guess tone and general intonation that we have for the month. Sanctuary, it's kind of like really interesting. This is almost like it's a caveman. It's kind of like one of those first moments he's expressing. If you can see here, he kind of like shadow his hand. He's kind of like doing the paintings over here. We can see the sun is setting over here. So I think this kind of like represents this first early kind of like creativity kind of sampling over here, and it's possibly something that you need to do. Maybe this is telling you that you need to spend some time on your own, and that you really need to kind of like tap into something that is maybe inside, something that really has to come outside, right? You also need to have your own sanctuary. If you didn't so far create anything that can kind of serve like that, find something, some space, whatever it is. It's better to be outside, a cave, meadow, forest, seashore, some setting in the nature, right? Because that way you're going to connect to the creator in your surroundings. So this is pretty much telling you that you're spending too much time on your computer, television, and any kind of like human-made device, and hence you really need to kind of like really do this connection. It's kind of funny because all of these electronic devices are really good to connect with spirits, with the ancestors. Like, I mean, they actually send us messages that way, especially when you focus on the messages that you're receiving. So it becomes really evident, right? But then you also have clouds, and that's really interesting. This kind of card is called shape-shifting, right? And so how many of you kind of like sit or lie down in the grass and kind of look at the clouds and say, oh, look at that one looks like a sheep, and that one is smiling at me, kind of sort of things, right? So what is basically happening here, it's really talking about that spirit kind of like guide, cloud people, that are images that are elegant collaboration between nature and our imagination. So the connection is clearly there. So I really think this is telling you, and this is really weird because it's happening during a Mercury retrograde, that you really need to do some image shape-shifting. So change your choice of clothing or hairstyle or adornments or even mannerisms, and like, I mean, facial expressions or how you walk or gestures. It almost looks like that is going to shift or even change internal attitude, and maybe you can practice displaying different personas. Maybe, especially if you're dating, one time you can be, beauty queen, another one you can be a very kind of like nice shy girl, and simply kind of like when I used to do marketing, we would say just like throw it against the wall and see what sticks on it, right? So when you experiment with these variations of self-expression, which is not how you ordinarily present yourself, others will react to you depending on the degree in which that personality contrasts the one, like, I mean, that you're very familiar with, right? So just be like the clouds and try out different forms. You kind of like need to stretch your limit at times, and you need to kind of like be willing to kind of like make different adjustments as well. So it's also very important that you kind of like walk straight up, and maybe you're slouching, and this is simply kind of like very subtle message. You kind of like need to work on it as well. And it's really talking about your aura field, like when clouds come through, right? So you really need to, and this is why it's pulling you in, you really need to kind of like ground yourself and then allow the creativity to kind of like go up. So you're pulling something from in and to kind of like getting out there. Let me just check a couple of main cards before I start Celtic Cross. You have the Wheel, but it's immediately followed with Eight of Sky. Get one more. And then you have a Three of Sky. It is very strange. This is a karma card. It's really talking about something is shifting in your favor. There is like expression of some kind of healing. You're feeling trapped to some extent because look at the kitty. It's kind of like stuck in here. The bats are coming. You know, the rain is coming. This is like a horrible situation for the kitty. So kitty is really trying quickly to get out of the situation and get free. But the more it struggles, the more hectic it becomes. Like, I mean, the more scratches and the more damage and the more predator it attracts, right? So this card usually shows through where somebody, oh, the kitty is showing up, the same kind of a kitty like in the card. Hi, Sassy girl. Are you bringing luck to me? Oh, really? You love Leo's? Whose birthday is tomorrow? Whose birthday is tomorrow? Safi is 8. This is my kitty cat Sapphire. If you didn't know, guys, she brings luck to any reading she shows up, right? Can I read? Can I do the reading? Because you put your butt in my face. You put your butt in my face. Yes, you put your butt in my face. Can you go here? Huh? You wanna? Yes. Yes, you're a pretty girl. There we go. And then you have Three of Swords, and this is the card that kind of talks about harshness and feeling piercing pain or feeling of being inadequate and feeling like that somebody else is taking what you think you should have. Not in a kind of greedy way, but in a way that it just like feels really unnatural. So these two cards, to me, because they add to 11, really talk about there's like some kind of healing. Maybe you have a history or possibility of a three-way relationships that it was always something involved. It could be a person. It could be that somebody's unavailable. It could be that, you know, somebody put the kids kind of like ahead of you, that somebody has a friend or a mother or a sister or brother or friend who is always squawking against the new partner, and it's possibly because of the jealousy or possessiveness or for control. And that really talks about pattern because of this card that came through. Right? Because the wheel, and look at it, is a kitty spinning this, right? And we know everything is going to fly all over the place. This is like that centrifugal force over here. It is really happening. So altogether is adding to 21. And that's another karma card. That's the World card. And what is this really telling me? That there is like something, like, and I think with just simply doing small changes, it may be how you approach situation. You really need to resolve something. Somebody's unavailable. This is clearly talking about unavailability, and this is talking about a heartbreak, right? But this is talking about enormous luck. It's almost like as if you actually are protected from this. Like, it's kind of weird configuration. I mean, this would mean you're going through some kind of like painfulness and it's going to get better, versus this one means whatever happens, rejection is for your protection. Really, like not one time fold, but like a million time fold because of this card that is coming through. Alrighty, so let's kind of like go a little bit more elaborate cross and just to see a little bit more details about it. Alright, Leo. Leah. Leah. Let's see, Leah. Oops. And I think it is time to start doing. So we have the moon and we have 2 of earth. So 9s and 6s are going to show really frequently when we have Mercury retrograde, because Mercury rules Virgo and Mercury rules Gemini, so 6th and the 9th month, right? And here we have a 9 really showing up, and it's again 9 and 2, 11. There is like some energy of healing that you need to approach, but healing for you clearly is some kind of jealousy. It's some kind of like non-definition. It's relating to full moon, and it could be just simply the full moon that we are currently kind of like going through, or the entire cycle until the 27th of February when we'll have full moon in Virgo, right? So this is also telling about somebody juggling something. This is really talking about our perceptions, and our perceptions can be completely wrong, or sometimes we put somebody on a pedestal, other times kind of like they surprise us. But generally this combination is really talking about a situation that kind of like doesn't have clarity whatsoever. And then here you have the 6. There's going to be something for you, Mercury retrograde, because these are the 2 strongest cards. It's also, I guess, we can have the Hermit and we can have the Devil additional too. So you have half of the strongest cards showing Mercury retrograde. It's going to really affect you. It's kind of like really, really weird over here, because the Lovers means that either you have inclination to kind of like be in a couplehood. It's kind of like really important to you at this time, but you feel there is like some kind of like burden that is kind of like pressing upon you, and it's kind of like there is like this big hesitation. This is a really, really big card over it. This is extremely positive card, but this is the card about overly kind of like being overly, I guess, affected by the situation, if I can say it this way. Mind you, this card is also the card of choices. And remember this kind of like shape-shifting that you got. This is clearly talking about possibly that there are some choices that you need to make, and that could be also internal choices as well. So in the past you have cat magic, so that's the Magician over here. Wow, 3 major arcanas. So the Magician means like that it's telling you, look, actually it's kind of like a little bit of conflicting advice, because we have cat magic saying you have all tools that you need, and this is kind of like talking about kind of like shifting. It's actually not contradictory, because it tells you if you want to attract a mate, if you want to get a job, if you want to progress in whatever it is your intention at this time, this is absolute possibility. You don't really need to create something extra, or kind of like everything is in place kind of a thing. So that means if you want to date, you don't have to create a new profile, right? If you want to kind of like get a job, you kind of like possibly already contacted this company and you can look it back. And that's where Mercury retrograde is extremely positive. Whenever we go back and look something from the back, this is really what happens. And then maybe you want to kind of like just exercise different approach. Maybe how you cross the legs, maybe how maybe you're more quiet when you're usually bubbly. Maybe you make people feel extremely comfortable in your company now. Maybe you're more silent and just studying their things and making them a little bit nervous, giving them a little bit of a mystery. So it's going to be a little bit of play about it. Maybe you're going to, for some reason, just like so a person looking herself in the mirror and testing the different ways of smiling, and it's going to be kind of like how much is kind of like given. And then you have Earth Kitten, and Earth Kitten to me is, look, it's kind of like appreciating differences. Maybe you're going to meet somebody in a very, very platonic way who is very, very different from you. And that's really talking about Venus in Aquarius. And February 1st, we entered Venus entered Aquarius. That's really about flourishing platonic relationships and having a really strong sense of independence. And as you know, especially if you're looking for a new relationship, or if you want to reestablish a relationship and make it stronger, the key ingredient that you need to have, without it, it's just not going to work, is friendship. And this platonic friendship is always the best, because it simply means if these two people are truly understanding each other. Are those building blocks together that you can put it together, or they're just going to kind of like appear together, but they can slip away, kind of a thing, right? So immediately ahead of you, it's another karma card. And this one is called consequences or justice, right? So we see here a kitty tangled up. When this is like upright, this means that it's going to come to some kind of clarity. There is like maybe a resolution of some kind of, and you're hearing Matrix and Safi just right behind me. Matrix is still trying to mate, even though he's fixed for like 12 years, but I guess it's a happy birthday to Safi right here. So if you have some legal issues and you're expecting a judgment or expecting some kind of like motion, you don't know which way that will go, well, it will go your way. It will be positive for you. Karma is moving in your direction. Things are really, really looking up. And so something is really kind of like leg up if you really wish. And that's something that's going to come immediately to you. Like it's another 11. You have this 11, and 11 is extremely spiritual number. It talks about healing. It talks about energy work. I mean, if you need an extra boost, if you have depression, I have those energy sessions, and they really do miracles. Like really quickly, within a week, they recover you. In your own house, you have 10 of Sky. So it's kind of weird. It seems like that you are your own enemy, right? This came right in the middle, this kind of like moon. And the 10 of Sky, look at how sad it is. Kitty is like in a corner, the eye's lost, the tail is broken. The rain is going to start, and somebody's throwing sticks and stones. So maybe you feel defeated. Maybe you feel in a corner. Maybe you feel it's over. And maybe whatever it was going on so far should be over. Kind of like this is one of those cards that is saying, whatever happened, but it's kind of over. It's over. The worst is over. Right now, either the kid is going to lose life, and that's going to be the end of one chapter, one book, and it's going to start a new process, or simply it's going to be a completely different approach and find the edge to kind of like go into it, or simply kind of like fight like the fears and everything else that we are exploring. In your environment, you have Earth Queen. That's kind of interesting. So this is not you. This is most likely female, even though it's general readings. It could be anybody. It could be a mother. It could be somebody married. And it's somebody who is going to console you. It could be a mentor. It's somebody who is very pragmatic, who is kind of like seeing things not in a conceptual way. A conceptual way is good. Hey, you know, you deserve better, da-da-da-da. But when you kind of like approach Earth Queen, she's very pragmatic. She's going to say, you know what? You need to wear red. You know what? These shoes don't look good on you. It's kind of like sort of like very easy applicable steps that something is going to move forward. And it's going to be something about you feeling down and out. It's about something that kind of like presentation of some sort. It's really, really going to kind of like really somebody who is really looking after you. So that could be mother as well, if you have a good relationship with the mother. So this person is going to have a really positive influence on you this month. So your hopes and fears, you kind of like really want to move from this stuck energy. You feel a little bit dark. Maybe you feel a bit down. Kind of it's normal during the transition of Aquarius, because that's the opposite side of yours, right? And it's usually, that's where you feel depleted of energy. That's kind of like you feel you have to kind of like work things out, and things will kind of get better. So this is kind of like telling that you are kind of like scrambling to get that optimism to kind of like really start to look up and go in a new direction. And ta-da, here it is. Remember, we had it in a kind of like initial pointers. We had 21, so we have 21 again. This month, guys, as I told you here, something is finishing, but something is finishing that is going to put you on the next cycle, which is going to be really, really good for you. That's another karma card. So you have two karma cards over here. You had the third one in the introduction, the wheel of fortune. And so you had also the hidden the world over there. So I really think it's all good. I'm going to just quickly clarify this card, 10 of Sky, to see what is this all about. getting here frivolity, and you're getting old woman. So this also could be old woman here that we see. And frivolity is, it's kind of really interesting. That can also connect to the lovers. It's really, really not good translation. I don't know who translated it, because this card in Italian is called leggerezza. Leggerezza talks about lightness. It talks about just like a butterfly. But I guess why they call it frivolity is because butterfly just goes from flower to flower, right? And it doesn't stay, right? And maybe something, you need some kind of staying power for some kind of one reason or another, right? Because this is really talking about possibly somebody be undecided or fickle or changing, or I don't know, irregular, thoughtless, possibly even perilous behavior if you wish, right? So it's connecting, possibly thinking. Old woman to me always I feel old lady, even though she's advisor, so she can simply be that you're going against somebody's advice over here, or it could be that somebody is being advised against you possibly as well. So it can actually have both things, right? So it's kind of really interesting when you really think about this butterfly. Butterflies are always very delicate, and I just cannot believe people who are trying to pin them on a paper and just keep them in a freaking, picture. Jesus Christ, just printed the picture and instead of doing the stuff. But, kind of to me, butterflies are a symbol of lightheartedness and joy. And they can also symbolize hope and resurrection. And they're also the souls of the dead. So the behavior of the butterfly, which I initially told is significant because jumping from flower to flower, which is basically what suggests that superficiality and fickleness, and and this instinct's wings suggest mobility and looking for something better, right? So here it's kind of really interesting because this butterfly landed on the isolated branch. We don't see anything. It's not a bush. An isolated flower. So this single flower, it's also kind of very significant that maybe you feel being singled out over here, just like this card. So I really think over here that you are maybe taking yourself too seriously. You are kind of going for all of nothing. This is clearly telling you, and you really need advice. You need advice, you need coaching, you need mentoring, you need tarot reading. This is clearly telling you, look, everything is going for you, everything. And just like in the beginning, we had this 8 of swords. So something is blocking either you or somebody else. So you are, mommy, I really want a shark. I want to pet the shark. And then it's blocking you. It's blocking. It's a freaking good thing. Even though you want it, it's going to be a disaster if you go in this direction. So there is a divine intervention here for you guys. That's why you have all these karma cards over here, right? So don't make decisions hastily or randomly, right? Put off important decisions until you really, really think through them and see why is this pattern in the universe being created over here. And try to be a little bit lighter. As I said, be less serious and recognize that even superficial or frivolous behavior has consequences, whether this is you doing it or whether there's somebody else doing it to you. You need to focus on having extremely quality platonic relationship this month. These platonic relationships, because this is mirroring the lovers, can really lead to something really, really important. So that means if you go out, do not jump in bed with somebody. Right? That means if you go out with somebody, don't even start talking about your relationship. Just, we can deal with this later. Let's see how we get along as people. And that, if the person doesn't want it, off you go. That means, you know what? You're in a rush. There is a reason why you're in a rush. That means you're not a quality person. Because if you're a quality person, why? We have the rest of our lives. What is it that I need to sign right away or jump in bed? Who the heck you think you are, right? That's the frivolous moment that you will kind of detect. You shouldn't be frivolous either. So that is a really, really big message over there. So Leo, this is much for February. I also want to tell you that I do weeklies, I do dailies. Dailies are released on my social media, so please join my Instagram and please join my Facebook. I should probably do that on Twitter. I still didn't start. It used to be automatic with Facebook stuff, and then they have changed it. I guess they start having arguments with Twitter. I also have weekly readings. Every Saturday I do it live, and I have 2 segments where you can ask your own question. I have doors, and kind of like you pick your own kind of like energy, and it kind of like the answer comes to you. So please join me there every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And lastly, guys, if you need a reading, if you really need to tell me how to shift yourself and what kind of like angle would be helpful, I would suggest new reading, or a reading if you never tried it with me. So you can look up my website at cattarot.ca, and we can go from there. So until then, guys, I do love you. I hope everything is going well. I wish you happy Valentine's. And again, like no hanky panky, I would really keep it slow. Mind you, this is telling me, like these 3 cards are telling me that something monumental is going to happen. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So half of the cards are major arcanas. So this month is creating a major shift. And it's just asking you to do something different. And that something different can make this monumental change down the road. So looking forward to reading for you next month, and hopefully you'll join me, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments, even if your comments are questions that you want to have answered. Love you. All the best.